And we are live. Welcome to Fight Court, everybody. Well, let me make sure my microphone's working here. Should have checked that before I came in, right? Oh, it is not working. All right, check. We are live, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Fight Court. Dean Thomas is not available tonight. He is on his way to the UFC. So I am riding solo. I have plenty of talking points that we were going to discuss. Yes, Dean should really know his travel plans when going out there. Everyone leaves for the UFC every Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, shame on you, Dean. But anyway, we will go. We'll catch up with Dean later. Dean's going to be posting some great clips behind the scenes throughout fight week. So if you like seeing those, please like, subscribe, and share. Subscribe, and share to the channel. And we'll have updates on that all throughout later in the week. Usually post those like Thursday through Saturday morning. Now, a lot of good stuff to talk about with the UFC this weekend, as well as last weekend. We'll start there. UFC Saudi Arabia. I love when they're on during the day. I really do love when those cards are on during the day. It's just nice. It's a lot more inviting to get the grill going. And well, I'm in Florida, so put the fights out on the patio. It's really good stuff. I enjoy it. Plus, we got a pool out there. My son can go out in the pool. I can jump in with him in the middle of commercials, stuff like that. Anyway, it just works out for me. So, first off, right off the bat, Jamal Pogues versus Hamdi. I keep forgetting how to spell his last name. I say Abdulwahab. So, screw job, I felt. Robbery, not a screw job, but robbery. I thought Jamal won that fight pretty soundly. The judges just got it wrong. There's no other way around it. Sal D'Amato was involved. I truly believe that as long as you get an early takedown in a round and show some form of activity for 30 to 45 seconds, you will win that round when Sal D'Amato is behind the judges' table. It's to him anyway. He's really wrestling heavy, but I like that he's not "What have you done for me lately?" but "What have you done?" total. I don't think he really does that. Now, I felt that Hamdi won the first round, but I felt Jamal won the next two. I already went over that on my X account. You could see that at Mighty Quinn MMA. However, I was going to discuss that a little more with Dean. When it comes to scoring, we got to look at what we're scoring. Damage, dominance, duration. Now, he won that first round with damage, so to speak, the takedown, or dominance rather. He didn't really do any cutting damage. Takedown, and he landed some solid ground and pound. I did think he did enough, even though he put the brakes on, to win that first round. That being said, even though he coasted, and then he just thought taking the center of the cage was enough to win rounds 2 and 3, and he didn't really control the dance. Even though Jamal was even though he was moving, he was kind of backpedaling. He was still throwing more volume. I felt he even connected a little bit more, especially in that third round. And he just didn't. I don't know what the judges were looking at. Maybe just because they're backing up, whatever. But what's interesting is a lot of people are starting to recognize, who's the commission out there. The UFC does bring out their own commission out there. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter where those judges are licensed, as long as they're licensed. They bring them out, and obviously they bring out judges who know what they're doing. They had, I forgot through it, but they had Sal, they had Ron McCarthy, the son of Big John McCarthy, who I always find it interesting. As much as he's Big John's son, he's truly his own man. I've spoken to John. I've spoken to John's been public about it. I didn't have to talk about it, Big John, how they've disagreed on decisions. And I think he just got it wrong. No, I think I got it right. And I think that's interesting. We are only human at the end of the day. The judges do what they can. That's why there's 3 of them. So you can't really blame it on, 2 of them saw a different fight than I did, or that we all did. I know Laura Sanko was pretty vocal about it on the internet as well. Anyway, so moving on. MVP versus Shara Bullet. That fight really got me. Now, I didn't think that MVP was going to win that fight. I thought that Shara was going to do enough. I thought he was powerful enough. I thought he was explosive enough. But MVP is still quick, and he's still improving in his game, which is pretty amazing. What is he doing that's so fun to watch? Since he's been in the UFC, his clinch game has been fantastic. Now, why has it been so good? It's not like it's been devastating by any means. However, when he gets caught up in he's a little off balance, he's so good at getting those double unders now. We call it the snake or the high dive in wrestling. He's so good at getting the double unders and getting back to his balance, his feet, or getting him against the cage, getting the opponent against the cage and controlling him. He's a lot stronger than I thought he was. And he's a cool dude. I remember him at Bellator. Very gracious individual. He was hanging out backstage for one of my fights. He was real cool to speak with. Really, really happy for him. We have some mutual friends. But yeah, he looked really good. Now, I gotta put someone won that fight, someone lost that fight. I thought that Shara, it looked like he was almost comfortable with the way he couldn't figure out the way the fight was going in the first round, and he got almost comfortable with whatever MVP was doing. Now, I understand that I guess he's retired now, God bless, with the eye or whatever. He can't get licensed in the United States. That was interesting. I haven't seen when his last fight was in the United States. Looking back, I can't guarantee that his last fight before this was in the United States, so who knows? Um, so that stinks. That being said, he was still in the fight, he was training, and he just was kinda there. He couldn't gauge, MVP's quick. I guess when you're looking at a one eye, it's even quicker. Um, I just felt he was just comfortable with the way the fight was going. Let me just get through this. He was just comfortable with MVP controlling the dance. And this isn't a tag team, this is a fight where you have to control something in order to win. And he just wasn't doing that. He wasn't doing that. Um, I was a little surprised that he let that happen. Especially he did have windows where he was he had MVP up against the fence and he just did nothing. He like even the announcers were saying this is his opportunity to score, and he wasn't doing it. He just wasn't doing it. He was doing this. This is MVP's game. MVP knows you're not going to strike. If you try to do this, what, and then try to fake, MVP is going to outstrike you there. He's going to counter strike you. And he was just real comfortable with just chilling, laying back, and just letting the fight go the way it went. Maybe there's more to it. I don't know. Izzy versus Nasruddin Imavov. Another one that I was wrong on. I struck out this weekend. I thought that Izzy was going to be able to win that fight. Like I said earlier, he looked good until he didn't. I thought that he was going to be able to come in and just control the dance. Like I said, that's the theme this week. If you haven't noticed, controlling the dance. The duration was going to win this week in all the big fights. Duration meaning like who had the cage control or the center control, so to speak. Cage controls against the cage. Now, where are we going with that? MVP. Israel looked good until he didn't. He looked confident. He was moving. He was scoring. He was in and out. And then he got caught up with a big right hand in the exchange early in the second. Dropped. I did think it was a valid stoppage. I know that a lot of people give what's his name a lot of shit. The referee, Mark. I can't think of his full name, but it was a valid stop. You got to think it was a heavy, big right hand that he came with. And then Imavov followed up with that short left hook / shovel punch uppercut that landed flush. Two really tough punches, and then followed by 5 or 6 more. So that's 8 unanswered strikes while an opponent isn't really shelled up. He's kind of taking it. You see the head go like this. Apparently his corner even said, yeah, he was done. They were cool with it. Of course, I wouldn't be happy with it if I'm Izzy. If I wouldn't, I'd be like, oh, you know what? But he seemed like he accepted it. Whatever. Got to take your hat off to Imavov, though. The way he moved his head to avoid the strike in the middle of the exchange, then moved his head with the punch to keep it out of the way when he threw the big right hand. And then he centered back with a left hook just to rebalance. Very good stuff. Very improved boxing. I always felt he was a point fighting French kickboxer. He's really seemed to have improved boxing over the last couple of fights to really stay in there, whether it's set up his kicks or now he's shown power. Awesome display. I do think that people were saying his next fight won't be for the title. I think it should be. I think that he's been in there, whether win or lose, with a lot of the top opponents, knocking out Israel Adesanya, who's arguably the best middleweight of all time. I know Anderson Silva's still up there. I got to go Anderson still, so I'm not even going to say that, but one of the best fighters of all time, or best middleweights of all time, and he knocked him out cold. Give him his title shot. There's not a lot going on in the middleweight division anyway. They got the fight this weekend, which we're going to talk about. But I think that he's in line next. He's earned his number one contendership. All right, so UFC 312 is ahead of us. Now, there's been some comments. I said Ariel Helwani said it, but I can't. He's not the only one saying it. A lot of people are saying this, and I kind of think it's horseshit. They're saying that the UFC is having a problem developing stars now. But this is what I think is going on. Now, we're fading away from the Conor McGregor era, and on top of that, we're fading away in a bad light. Conor McGregor's still there. He's still talking his shit, but he's not fighting. Even when he's fighting, he's not winning. So that whole gimmick of the good bad guy is played out. Other people are trying to emulate. Colby Covington's had some success as the bad guy. Even he's starting to fade a little bit, although he's still fighting. He's still in big fights, but he's not winning. So because the way this is happening, this superstar thing is not really a thing anymore. And that's not so bad. Now, on top of it, I don't know why people are saying the UFC is having a hard time creating stars. What other stars are there in the sport right now? And Jake Paul does not count. He's in boxing. What other stars are there in the sport as a whole? Like, really stars in their prime right now? Who? Outside of the UFC? There isn't any. And that's not what I mean is there's not those superpower stars. On top of it, like, when people were talking about Conor McGregor in 2017, everybody was talking about Conor McGregor in 2017. Nowadays, the only people that I see talking about Conor McGregor are Nick. Let's go, Nick. Let's go. The only people that I see talking about Conor McGregor are those who are shoving it down our throats in the media on social media. Not even the UFC is doing it anymore. Even Dana White's, I'm not sure it's going to happen. Joe Rogan, not sure it's going to happen. So I think that people are kind of holding on to that a little too much. Let's fade out. So where are we getting with this? The MMA as a whole is not creating stars. It's not just the UFC. We got to go back to focusing on the fighting, which is great. Fight nerds like myself, fighters like myself. Let's focus on the fighting. And that's what this card's going to offer this weekend, I think, if you let it. A lot of these cards that they have coming up, these matchmakers, Sean Shelby, Mick Maiden, are not stupid people. They know exactly what they're doing. They got to find fights that deliver as the fight as opposed to the superstar power. So, yeah, this fight card's a little top heavy. Cool, whatever. There's a lot of fights on this card that offer a good fight. We'll start. I wrote them down to make sure. Jimmy Groot versus Rodolfo Bellotte. Yeah, Bellotte. Big scrap. Both guys that need a win. That's going to be on the preliminary card. Great fight. Jake Matthews coming back off the Ultimate Fighter versus Francisco Prado. Another great fight. A good scrap, I think, is going to throw down. So on top of that, we have our prelims that are going to deliver that people are going to be able to watch for free before they turn into that top heavy card. So by the time you get to the main card, it's only two or three fights that are star powered anyway. And I think overall this is good for the sport. The casuals are in. Now they're going to start seeing fighting. A lot of them are learning fighting, know what to look for, and we're going to start seeing some good fights again. Can't wait. Love what they're doing. And then we can go now to the co-main event: Tatiana Suarez versus Weili Zhang. Now, a lot of tests here. What do I mean by that? Weili's never seen a wrestler like Tatiana before. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that pans out. She's stout. She can move in and out, create angles to avoid the takedowns. A lot of these strikers, if you know, like, they don't have the natural takedown defense like a wrestler or a judo player or even a jiu-jitsu person. Jiu-jitsu player is going to have. So they rely on their footwork for their defense, creating angles so they're not straight on, so you cannot shoot on them. That is going to be the test here for Weili. Can she create those angles and score while Tatiana's trying to line her up for a takedown? Going to be very interesting to see. And I think Tatiana is more than capable of taking her down. Going to have some. She's going to have to stand and trade with her first, or do some counter offensive shooting under strikes. But you still have to be able to throw a good jab in that aspect. Now, what is the test for Tatiana? What kind of chin does she have against somebody like this? Weili's shown some serious power over the years. Serious power. I think that I think that's going to be a test for both. I think that if I don't even know. Yeah, we're gonna see about her chin. We're gonna see about Tatiana's chin here, while we're gonna see about Weili's wrestling. That's gonna be ultimate test. And honestly, I feel like you're gonna be able to find out who's gonna win this fight later in the first round. Whatever's happening, 3 minutes between the 3 and 7 minute part. I'm gonna give myself a little window here. Whatever happens between 3 and 7 total minutes of this fight, that is going to be the person that's going to depict the winner. That's going to tell the story. It's going to be the plot line. Can Weili defend the takedowns? Can Tatiana avoid the power shots, or can she absorb enough power shots to create some leverage and angles for a takedown? That's going to be the story of this fight. Can't wait. I think that fight is getting severely overlooked. Obviously, we have a big main event here. However, I really can't wait for that one. Now, the main event, we have our rematch between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. Now, when the fight first happened, and this happens, I felt that Sean Strickland won originally, but when they called for DDP, I said, I'm not gonna argue on that one. I'm not gonna argue on that one. I thought that they did good. Now, what do we have going for us here? Obviously, the stuff that makes Sean so tricky is he's known for his grappling, and he's got some heavy hands. However, he's got a very good jab that he's able to hide behind. People are starting to figure that out in his last few fights. Actually, since Imavov, people are starting to figure out that Sean Strickland has a sneaky jab, that he's able to move forward and hide behind no less. He's not just jabbing back. He's moving forward. He's got that weird unorthodox stance where he's touching his gloves, and he's able to hide behind that shoulder as he's throwing that jab. Very effective. Now, if you haven't seen that before, it's really tough to deal with. Dricus has now seen that. He experienced it for 25 minutes, and now he's going to be able to go back and watch that tape and see what the tells are to get around that jab, to block it. Honestly, he might not have to. I'm always big on improving your boxing for stuff like this, but because Sean doesn't have really slick takedowns, he might be able to throw up the old, and he's a kickboxer, the old regular kickboxing defense where he just throws it like this. Block the jab here and counter 2-3. That might be his motion there. That might be his money combination right there in this fight. Block the jab, 2-3. I think that that's going to be prevalent. Now, I know for some reason people just don't like Dricus. And it's just from what we see, and people have said he's not. I guess he's just an unlikable person. He sounds good in the cage, but people just don't like him. Apparently, that little brawl between him and Sean was his fault at the fight a couple of years ago, or a little over a year ago. Whatever the case. That being said, I feel he is developing very well as a striker, as a mixed martial artist as a whole. He has pretty solid Greco wrestling. He translates that well with great clinch work in the cage, not only against the fence, not only for Thai boxing with the plum, but he's transitioning that into takedowns. Will he be using takedowns against Sean? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that he might do one to chew some clock. When I say chew some clock, I mean buy time. But overall, I think that if he could defend that jab, boom, 2-3, boom, 2-3 kick, boom, 2 left inside kick, I think that he can outscore Sean. If Sean hurts him, like this is where I would do my game plan for Sean. Let's say if Sean lands that jab, I would start getting greedy with that boxing, with those heavy hands, that heavy hand striking that he's got. I would really look to put a stamp on the exchanges. What do we got here? Nick, I think Dricus wins. However, Sean can also win if he tires Dricus out, because I think Sean has the better gas tank. I do also think Sean fights a little boring. Good defense, though. I agree with you, Nick. I think that if he can tire him out, however, I can't see Dricus really getting that tired. He's getting used to these 5-round fights. I think that the way Sean fights it allows for a break in the action, so to speak, like an active rest within the round. If you can keep moving a little bit, it's not like Sean's really fleet of foot. Um, now, and another resting spot I would say with Dricus, and wrestlers do this all the time, is that clinch, that improved clinch that I'm talking about. He gets in that clinch, he just chews the clock after he lands a combination, catches his breath, breaks away, goes back to the other active rest of his footwork. But when Dricus is scoring, it's when he's moving forward, moving his head, similar to what I said at Imavov, moving forward, throwing those punches, that that uh that like Russian style of kickboxing. No motion until pop, 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 explosion. No, and then him no motion till explosion to a clinch takedown, stuff like that. But I wonder what we'll see here on Sean's adjustments in that matter too, in that aspect. Like we just talked, like Sean's got to get greedy. Will he be more active with the jab? Will he change his stance a little bit up to where he's a little bit more cheating into a boxing stance so he allows himself, like that's what I used to do. My boxing was a lot been a lot further away than my wrestling and grappling was as far as MMA is concerned. So I would cheat into a boxing stance to give myself a chance a little bit more with defense, and hope for the strikes to come out a little better. Although it didn't really happen that way for me. Um, Now with Sean, maybe he'll throw some double jabs, or as we talked about before, what a stab jab is. King Mo's on here; he's big on this. Where it's almost like fencing, like you jab to the body, stop Dricus in his heels, jab to the body. Punches to the body are so big, should be utilized more in MMA. Punch him to the body, he's back on his heels, land a big right hand, left hook. Punch to the body, land a big left hook, right hand. Things like that. Sean could do to slow the fight down for himself. He's maybe a little less athletic. He can slow the fight down in order to score that way with some damaging bombs. Um, so let's say he starts doing that. What does Dricus do? Dricus, I think, would have to fire back, go back to more traditional kickboxing, throw that front kick, uh, try to get him extended, whatever. Try to stand him up in his own right while he's working into the clinch and win this fight in the clinch game. That's what I think here. So that's really what I spoke about. That's what I got this week. I don't think there's really much else to talk about. I did see a little while ago that they're talking about Jake Paul is fighting Canelo. I don't know how true it is. What happened with the fight with his brother? I was kind of looking forward to seeing that. Um, but you know what? I just thought of a good analogy here. So remember in the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, obviously everyone was going to watch Jake Paul Mike Tyson, but then Amanda Serrano lit it up with I forget her name, but that fight was fire. Now everyone wants to see when those two are fighting again. So you have this top heavy card, and Bellator used to do this all the time. You put the top heavy card, and then you have the undercard people that are trying to grow, which is what the UFC is looking to do here with some of these guys. And not to mention the Teixeira, I forgot to mention this before, the Teixeira and Tafa fight. You got someone who's 6'7", a big old heavyweight against a bruiser coming forward, but that's going to be old school. That's going to be a fun fight to watch. So you have these fighters on the undercard and on the lower end of the main card that people there's going to be eyes on. They're going to get their chance to show. The UFC is going to get their opportunity to grow these fighters, get them exposure with this top heavy card. And we're going to be looking forward to some fighters coming forward. I'll tell you right now that two fighters I can't wait to watch more of this year is Lerone Murphy and Song Yadong. I hope they meet up at some point. I think those two are looking great. But that's what's going on with the UFC this weekend and last weekend as a whole. If there's anything else to discuss, please let me know. Put the comments in. As I said, like, subscribe, share Fight Court Podcast on YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram. Looking forward to it all. See you later, guys. Enjoy the fights this weekend.